A NHL insider reveals the potential asking price for Nikita Zadorov going into the offseason, how this might affect and cause major complications for the Vancouver Canucks salary cap. We also get an update on Thatcher Demko's injury, and Silovs gets high praise from his home country of Latvia. We'll get into all this later on this episode, but before I start, I just want to say to thousands of you watching that aren't subscribed, I want to give a huge shout out to the almost 1,850 of you guys that are subscribed. If you're enjoying this content, make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. We're going to be all season long giving you updates from all around the Canucks. We're so close to 2,000. We're trying to hit this before the third round, so make sure to go down and hit that subscribe button. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Insider Reveals Potential Zadorov Asking Price. Now, Frank Seravalli was on Canucks Army. He was on an interview, and he was talking about a lot of things, and the first thing was Zadorov's asking price. So when he was talking about Zadorov, he did say he thinks he's getting 6x6. He continues on to say how it also doesn't see how Vancouver can make the money work to re-sign Lindholm if Zadorov is signed to this. Now, I'll be the first one to say 6x6 for Zadorov is a lot. But when you do look at his numbers, and especially the recency bias, this guy has been nothing short than outstanding. You look at Zadorov in 11 games, 4 goals. A lot of these goals were huge ones. We see rockets from the point, 4 assists, 8 points. We see is a +4, 40 hits, which is almost 4 hits a game. This guy has been outstanding, but 6x6 might be asking for a lot, especially with the Canucks dealing with the cap. Now, the big thing me and Griffin were kind of talking about heading into this video was the fact that Nikita Zadorov has 4 goals this postseason. Connor McDavid has 2. The big thing about this too is Zadorov has more even strength points than Connor McDavid in these 11 games as well. But the big thing is when you look at the salary cap, when you're looking at this Canucks team going into next season, which I'm sure is not on everyone's mind right now, especially with Game 6 coming up tomorrow or today, depending when you're watching this, there's a lot of names that are floating around that are potential players that might walk. You see guys like Teddy Bluger, Dakota Joshua, who is a must sign in my opinion, Sam Lafferty, Elias Lindholm, which is a huge piece of this Canucks team, and we'd love to see him back. You look on defense, you guys see guys like Filip Hronek, Ian Cole, which Ian Cole can walk if he wants to at this point, but shout out to Ian Cole, he has been playing, well. Friedman's another guy, Tyler Myers, and of course Nikita Zadorov, and Silovs is an RFA, so they do still have its rights, but he is a guy that can just kind of cause a bit of problems for this cap. And Griffin, just what's your thoughts on Zadorov's asking price, and what's your thoughts on maybe losing a couple guys if he does demand this much money?
I think Zadorov's asking price is pretty substantial. I think it's going to be hard for Vancouver to make it work, like Seravalli said. However, I think Vancouver does have the ability to make it work if guys take pay cuts. Tyler Myers might be someone who will be able to take a bit of a pay cut. And there are some other guys, like you said, with Ian Cole, who could potentially walk. And there's some other guys on there like Lafferty or some other ones where you could trim a little bit of the fat there. But the main ones that I'm looking at are Lindholm, Joshua, Zadorov, and Silovs. Those are the 4 that you definitely want to bring back. If you bring back Tyler Myers on a smaller contract, so be it. But those main 4, those have to be the priorities this offseason as far as bringing guys back. We've seen how they've been big not only in the regular season, but also in this postseason. And you see how they've basically molded that team chemistry where you have that Lindholm line with Joshua and Garland that we see from time to time that also Myers works his way into, like we addressed with their great chemistry. You don't want to mess with that chemistry, as well as the other elements too, where you have Silovs, who is going to be a phenomenal backup next year. I think it's undoubted. I think it's going to be a guarantee that they sign him. I don't think they'll have to worry about breaking the bank for him because he's so young and is going to be a backup that will be able to start more often than not, especially with Demko's injury history. And with Joshua, he's just going to be a big body guy, and the big one, Zadorov, as well. He's been great this postseason. He's been outscoring McDavid. He's been going toe-to-toe with Evander Kane, which has been awesome. And, of course, Elias Lindholm has been a stud for us in the playoffs, coming up in key moments and on the power play when we needed him.
Yeah, that's the big thing. And like just naming some of these names, like you were saying, guys that you need to sign, obviously Dakota Joshua, Zadorov, Lindholm. But the big thing is when you're looking at this cap, it does seem stressful at first, but you have a lot of guys that are cleared off the books. Obviously, Tyler Myers is making $6 million. This will drop. He's obviously not going to make $6 million go next season. As he's a UFA, he's getting up in age, so he will look at a cheaper, maybe team-friendly deal. So maybe if you give the $6 million to a guy like Zadorov, bring Myers back, trade Hronek for multiple pieces, maybe bring in a couple of young guys. I mean, we've seen Quinn Hughes work with a guy like Luke Shin. So what's stopping them bringing in a veteran guy that can play the right D? Cheaper deal, you can retain salary if possible. The Canucks are not in too bad of a spot, but 6x6 for Myers, $36 million, might be a little high. Let us know down in the comments, but I wanted to give a big shout out to the Kempner Canucks. He was at the game last night. Just want to say I'm so jealous. Wish I was there for that. But like he says on the sign, sign Zadorov now, and he has a sign going, and honestly, this is a great guy. He's a friend of the show. Make sure to check out his content, and I agree. I think you need to sign Zadorov. 6x6, I wish there was more wiggle room. If you could bring him in at 4.5, maybe 3.5, 4 million for a multi-year deal, I think that's actually perfect. But let us know down in the comments, what's the ideal asking price for a guy like Zadorov? With that, we'll get straight into the second topic today, which is Thatcher Demko update. Now, obviously, we got an update from Brendan, and he was kind of just quote tweeting what Rick Tocchet says, and they say that would be a stretch when asked if Demko would play this weekend. The big thing with this is, yes, we are stressed out on the fact that we don't have our starting goalie in a guy like Thatcher Demko, but Silovs has came in, he's looked outstanding, and depending on how the game goes tonight, we're recording right now when Dallas and Colorado's playing in overtime. Hopefully that's a second overtime so we can watch it, but depending on that, you rather a healthy Demko going into that series, and just what's your thoughts on his progression so far, Griffin?
I think it's awesome to see him progressing so significantly in such a short amount of time. When we heard about it, we were initially worried that he wasn't going to come back at all this postseason. And then a few days ago, when Tocchet said how much he's improved over the past 72 hours at the time of his statement, it was very, very surprising and very optimistic outcome. To see. Not necessarily with this round with Edmonton. There was some speculation if it were to go to Game 7, who would you start? I know you and I have talked about that off camera. That would be a debate for its own time, but I don't think him coming back for this series is going to happen. Whether they push him for Game 7, I don't think that's a smart idea either. I think you're best to just see what happens as far as this series goes. And if you make it to the next round, which I think that we will, I think that's when you start to have the questions of, okay, when are we going to bring him ready? Maybe it's by Game 3 or 4 in that series. Hopefully we're able to bring him in so that Silovs can have a bit of a rest. I know he's been very, very active since he won over that starting role this postseason. Casey DeSmith has just been an afterthought, but it will be nice to see him get a bit of a break when the person who will be stepping in for him is that Vezina caliber goalie in Thatcher Demko. But again, him not coming back for this series, I don't think is very surprising. But just got to look forward to the next series against Dallas when we will need him, or against Colorado where those guys are going to be high-powered as well.
Yeah, because the big thing is we see this team, we see Rick Tocchet, we see management. Everyone trusts his Silovs. I don't think you can take this starting role from him, especially if Demko is at his 80%, 90%. Obviously, like you said, if this goes to Game 7, you start to have the debate. But if the Canucks finishes up in 6, you let Demko get his rest. You get him in for the third round. You kind of split starts. You keep Silovs, whatever it might be. It's going to get interesting. But talking about Silovs, there was another topic, which is Minister of Defense. Now, there was just an article that came out today. It was from City News Friday morning. It was an awesome article, and there was a reporter from Latvia, just a journalist, just speaking on Silovs. He said you have to wait until 4 a.m. or 4:30 in the morning usually to watch Silovs play. It's a bit of a difficult time for Latvia, so we really hope we win so we haven't wasted all this sleeping time. He continues on saying, we've been loving hockey since the Soviet era. He says how Silovs last year winning the bronze medal, which was the first time Latvia medaled in the World Championships, which is funny that they won this game. Silovs starting against Casey DeSmith. This was our first medal ever. We've been a bit of a middle ranking team. We've never really had massive success. However, last year was something special, and now everyone who is on that team is a glorious national hero for life, and one of these people obviously is Silovs. The interviewer continues on, or the journalist, says, what can I tell you, 100%, is that he's not going to break mentally. He's going to put his heart on the ice. The reporter asked why. He said why? Because he's Latvian and we can't do otherwise. He's going to do his best even if they might not succeed sometimes. And this is just awesome to see the entire country of Latvia just on Silov, just knowing how much, like they said in this article, he's a glorified star. He's a glorified national hero. This is a guy that has an entire country of not just Latvia, but of Canada on his back. Obviously, fans of the Oilers aren't going to be backing him as much, but there's an entire country that is backing this guy up. And just what's your thoughts on this article?
I think it's great to see the support coming in from Latvia, where we know that they're going to be cheering on one of their own, but it's great to see that they're making the mainstream news, whereas Silovs has not only swept our news cycle, but also in America, where their hockey culture is always growing every day. And then in Latvia, where their hockey culture, like it was said in the article, has been big since the Soviet era. We've always known that Latvia has had that big hockey culture, but they've never had the numbers or the talent or the manpower to show for it. And now they do with Arturs Silovs, where he's representing his country in glorious fashion. And he's bringing great pride to that country that has definitely been yearning for a national star to kind of have like their poster child for their sport. And to have for Latvia to have that, and especially playing for the Vancouver Canucks and representing not only the Canucks, Latvia, but also Canada, it's amazing to see. And I can't wait to see what more this guy does with his career. It's been awesome to see him grow as a goaltender through the AHL on the national stage, and just how he's been able to rise to the moment, like Tocchet said, not blinking throughout these playoffs. He's been outstanding, and it's going to be great to see him in the future.
I think the best part of this, and what would make this a story, just a story on its own, would be if he brought Lord Stanley to Latvia after the Canucks won the Stanley Cup. But what's your guys' thoughts on this article? What's your guys' thoughts on Zadorov's asking price? Who do you want to bring back? What's your thoughts on Demko's injury? Who do you start in Game 7 or Game 1 of the next round? Let us know down in the comments. But speaking on comments, we'll hop into everyone's favorite topic, which is comment of the day. And the comment today comes from Nobody 2012 and says, probably PD's best games this playoff. Keep it rolling, PD. And me and Griffin were talking about this on how outstanding PD was playing, especially the last game. He's finally kind of found his footing, especially with his new line mate. So hopefully this continues on. Hopefully we can see PD score the game winner, score whatever goals it is to help the Canucks ultimately make it to the Stanley Cup Finals and to win the Stanley Cups. And while we were looking through comments, just trying to pick, we also wanted to just kind of ask you guys for the next comment of the day, where are you guys watching this from? Obviously, we looked at the last 28 days. 85% are from Canada, which is a given since a lot of Vancouver fans. We have 5% from United States. We have people from Sweden, Latvia, Australia. There's people from the Philippines. There's so many people watching this from around the world. It's kind of feeling like we're going international at this point. Where are you guys watching from? Let us know down in the comments. You could be featured on the next episode of Canucks Digest. While you're down there, make sure to like, subscribe, share this with your friends. If you enjoyed the episode, we hope you see you on the next one. But I've been your host, Mark, with my co-host, Griffin. Take care.